It's back to the daily grind, and this time it's for a Wirtgen machine. The machine is a W120Fi, and it's a cold milling machine. And just to make sure, it says that in many languages on the box. Let's get to the end right now, and at the end of the box, we see it's engineered by NZG and it's model number 1037. On it goes to the weighbridge, and it weighs in at £1 3 ounces, and that's 550 grams. Okay, let's open the box and see what's inside. We have the usual pair of expanded polystyrene trays, and they say top and bottom, so we know which way is up. And then out comes the knife to swiftly cut the factory tape. Peeling back the lid, we can see the model is well protected. But we can also see that unfriendly piece of packaging, the twist tie. So we need to go underneath and see how quickly we can get it undone. Well, if you can beat that speed, you're doing very well. And then the next job is for the giant hand crane to carefully lift the model out. There's no assembly to do because it's complete out of the box. But as a bonus, we do have a bag containing some spare pins. The model goes onto the weighbridge, and it's just over 13 ounces, and that is 380 grams. Let's dive underneath, and at the back is the milling drum with its individual highlighted teeth. And that feeds material into a central belt which has a rubber-like material. The front tracks have got a complex steering arrangement. And then the conveyor has a mesh cover, and you can see the patterned rubber conveyor belt. The conveyor structure has got complicated articulation, and there's some nice finer detailing along the sides. At the discharge point, the belt can be seen. And moving back down the conveyor, the supports are made of wire. There's a large vacuum hose on the opposite side, and the mechanism is intricately modelled. On the side there are highlighted panel handles and sharp graphics, and there's some complicated modelling of the legs and crawler track frames. The tracks themselves are rubber belts. At the back, the high detail continues with textured steps and a diamond-plated work platform. All of the handrails are made of metal. Looking down on top of the engine area, there's a see-through grille, and there are some reasonably discreet hinges. On the other side there's another grille, and you can see the equipment inside. The exhaust pipe also has a nice blackened hole. A typical high point for a Wirtgen Group model is the very detailed operator's console. The roof is metal with glazing on the edge. With the machine on site, we swiftly unload it with the giant hand crane, and we can then proceed to transform it into operating mode. The first thing we'll do is open up the conveyor, which has been folded for transport. The conveyor is held up by two wires connected to hydraulic rams, so to adjust those on the model is just a little bit fiddly. You need to get hold of the end of the piston and force it back into its jacket. These rams are quite stiff, so they hold a pose, but that does mean it's a little bit difficult to get the pistons in. With the conveyor raised up, we can unfold the forward section. We will now do something you shouldn't do on your own worksite, and that is turn the machine upside down. That lets us see that there is linked steering on the front crawler tracks, and one of the rear crawler tracks can also be moved out of position. And the rear tracks can also be steered. The big milling drum can also be rotated. Back to normal pose, and we can raise the roof of the cab. And on the review model this was just a little bit loose. If you remove it fully, you can wrap paper around the end, and when you put it back in, that firms up the roof support. As we've seen, one of the rear crawler tracks can be moved out of the line of the machine, and although it's a bit fiddly, it can be done. The other thing you can do is to raise the height of the machine by extending the legs of the crawler tracks. So that gives you some different posing options. Moving to the conveyor, you can also offset it to either side, so you can pose it realistically loading a truck. Another nice feature on the model is the opening engine cover. The hinged mechanism works well, and you get to see the engine with its different coloured components. Let's close the cover up and move on to the next feature. And for this one we need to move the leg out of the way. That gives us access to a tiny pin, and it's difficult to remove and even more difficult to get back in. It is very small and luckily spares are provided, but with the pin out you can then open the door that reveals the milling drum, and if the teeth are worn out from milling your desktop, you can take the drum out and replace it. Let's go for a bit of realism and force an operator into the cab, and as usual the bloke seems reluctant to do a day's work. Anyway, once he's in the seat he fits well, and then we can use a truck to complete the mini diorama. This is a typically highly detailed Wirtgen model by NZG. Although it's really only a small machine, it is packed with functionality, and it's also a high quality model with a high metal content. This kind of model always poses well with other models, so if you want a model of a cold milling machine, it is excellent.